Hello, welcome to Cruising with Phil. First interview in a long time. This is an off interview. This wasn't expecting to do until I get back and settle into my own place. So I have here with a special guest here. Good guy here at McDonald's. He's willing to share his story. And his name is Daniel. Let me just put the camera on you. Hey Daniel, introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Frankin McFadden, and I'd like to see more support for infrastructure so that folks with disabilities can get around and they don't have to struggle so much because, money is not what it once was, and so it's kind of tough to live on the pittance that I get from the government. But I'd just like to see a little bit more from the government and more support for infrastructure and communities as a whole.
Can you do you want to share how much you get during a month?
Somewhere in the realm of $600 a month.
You get $600. That's for everything from the government. And what's that include?
That includes rent, and includes food and groceries, and then social life if I've got one.
If you got some with enough money left over. Okay, great. So, as for your wheelchair, is that funded by the government?
Supported by the government. I pay the lion's share, and they pay,
The lion's share?
Well, yeah. So the share costs in the realm of $15,000.
Yep.
And so I bear the upfront cost, and then there's a small chunk from the government.
Oh.
But I'm responsible for it.
And you had to get the money on your own? Oh, yeah. Was it hard getting that?
Yeah, it was.
It was hard, yeah. How long have you had your wheelchair now?
Well, I have CP, and I've been in a wheelchair all my life.
Okay, wow. Great. So, in terms of funding, what would you like to see? What is lacking, would you say, for yourself? What you would like to see more of?
I'd just like to see an increase in funding so that people can actually live and afford food. I'd also like to see the government really get in on the ground and see how unaffordable life is when you walk into your average grocery store, because it's really difficult for people to even find food, and we're forcing people to get into more McDonald's situations because they can't afford the basic food that they're intended to live on, that's supposed to help them live a good life.
That's amazing, It's funny you mentioned about the food, right? And the food, cost of food. I remember when I ran for mayor, I asked about these food chains. Like Shoppers Drug Mart has a 20% discount for seniors on Thursdays. Why do it at all grocery stores? Not for people with seniors, but people with special needs as well. Something to see. I know some countries in Europe, they actually do have food programs for people with special needs, which is amazing. And they volunteer their time by putting in the economy. Are you a volunteer yourself for anything?
I used to volunteer, and I'm looking for another opportunity.
That's great. I remember we talked earlier about this before the interview. Would you be, if there was a special committee for disabilities in the city hall, would you volunteer yourself?
Yes, I would.
And what would you like to bring with your voice to the table?
Just lived experience, which I don't feel as though our city officials have. So, I want to see more lived experience, because then I feel like accurate stories would actually be told.
Yeah, realism, right? People who like the grassroots. It's funny that we talked earlier about this, about how the grassroots candidates get ignored because they're living the experience, where the status quo, like next year's election, might be the same thing, unless the people that haven't lived like you lived or I've lived, like living in a car like I showed you, how can you relate to people? How can you know where the dollar goes? If you're used to spending over $10 million like pocket change, and you and me know how to spend like $100, it goes a long way, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, anyways, also what I ask you is, back then, you've been all your life, you could say your journey would be difficult back then, trying to get subsidized housing and all that, or getting money from the government was difficult, right?
Well, back then I was a little bit younger and perhaps a little bit more naive, but as I've gotten older, I realized that, the story that you're told and the lived experience are vastly different. So, as I said, I'd like to see more of our public officials talk to people on the street and really get a sense of how we actually live, because the story that they'll tell you and the lived experience are vastly different. So,
It's interesting. We also talked earlier about disabilities, about when they passed the Disabilities Act about accessibility to everybody.
yes.
For you, like, has it made a difference when they passed the act back in 2018 for accessibility, getting around? Is it easier for you now or more difficult?
I would say that it seems to be a little bit. Well, what I will say is that there are challenges with whatever the avenue you use, because the TPC requires that every person pay a fare, whatever the fare is. If you don't have the money, you draw the ire of not only the people on the bus, but in some cases, the person driving the bus as well. And, you know, no person can always have money to ride the vehicle. And
Yeah.
so it's kind of an unfortunate situation that, you know, we have a publicly funded system that says pay your fare,
Yeah.
pay your fare. I'd love to pay your fare, but sometimes I can't do that. So I don't feel as though the system should shame me for not being able to pay the fare.
Have you had problems with drivers themselves when you get on the bus and not having the money?
Not particularly, but I mean they do kind of. They say, well, you know, you should pay your fare. But the thing is, nobody knows my situation. They don't know what I've done with whatever money I've had.
Right.
So, you know, we get away from talking about fares in general. That would make me happy. So,
What fare do you pay? You pay seniors fare or regular fare?
no, I pay the regular fare, the $3.39 or whatever.
Really?
It is.
Yeah, because I'm a senior, so I get the seniors fare, right? Which you should get the seniors fare, so make it easier. It's just the card.
I'm thinking about getting onto the discounted
Yeah,
program.
yeah. But would be ideal to make it a complete either reduced fare or just free, right? Say, no, for
That'd be helpful.
oh yeah. So like saying for like when you're going like coming to McDonald's, they have accessible doors, right? We're talking about. They have the two doors to come. The two main doors they have buttons. But going to the washroom, there's no accessible door buttons there, right? So like when you use this washroom over here, the one at McDonald's here. Like for my mom, I have to hold the door for her. How difficult is it for you to get in there and come out? Do you need assistance, right?
Well, like yourself, I've often had to use the arms of other people. I say, you know, I've got to get in the toilet and hold the door for me and so on and so forth. So, yeah. I mean, an accessible button there would be really helpful.
Oh yeah, especially some of the restaurants. Like we used to go to Gabby's on Ellesmere, and they have these massive doors. Like even me, as a muscle guy, trying to open the bloody doors. Like, are you serious? And people would, like my mom, couldn't even get out the door. You know, I remember there one time there was this kid went to the washroom by himself. The dad opened the door, and the parents were like looking all over for the kid. Like, no, he's in the washroom. He might be still in there. He couldn't get out of the door. You know, so it's funny. We talked earlier about extending the Accessibility Act. It should be all the way, not just for public, but also if you're serving the public in a private like residence or whatever, or private, you're renting a space, saying we're having an event, everybody's welcome. But if you don't have accessibility options, then you're serving the public. That should be a law. You know, exactly. So how's you like for your daily living? Like how's your for your food wise? Like are the days you have to skimp down on meals during the week or what?
Yeah, there's some days where, you know, I don't really. I'm not gonna lie. There are some days where I don't eat, and you know that's just because the money that you have doesn't really go far enough. So while I am grateful for it, you know it's just not enough. And I'm the last person to say, you know, woe is me, but some more funding would be helpful.
Some more funding. Around. What about we were talking about earlier about the food banks as well. How's that go with you?
Well, fortunately, the food banks themselves, I mean, the quality of food there really needs to be improved because we should be looking at trying to keep people alive rather than leaving them holding on by their fingernails. So, you know, good quality food, you know, more funding all around.
That's something you mentioned about good quality food. Like we're talking about McDonald's here for quick bites, you know. Even like Don I've had a friend named his name's Jack. He's in kids in high school about food security and nutrition. It's funny how you don't have many options. You're trying to be healthy, right? And eat healthy, but you know you can't.
try.
It's in the let's face it, any of these Healthy Planet stores or healthy food stores or organic stores are just too expensive.
That's true.
I want to buy like $8 for a cookie.
That's true. That's true.
You know, so it's great. Do you have? Is your family in Toronto? All your family?
Yeah.
You have a lot of
My
support.
family's in Toronto.
Yeah, you have a lot of support from your family.
Yeah, they come by every once in a bit. Come and check on me and stuff. So
It's good.
we've been along well.
How do you deal with the winter times with the snow plowing and all that?
In the wintertime, you won't see me coming out to McDonald's and
Too
things
much.
like that because it's basically unsafe. Because your snow plows will they'll plow in such a way where the snow will pile up and it'll make the sidewalks inaccessible. So yeah, I mean, this is where lived experience comes in, where we need people to see that these are dangerous situations and you're taking people's lives away from them if
Yeah.
they can't walk down the sidewalk safely. So, yeah.
Because of the plowing and all the plowing. I remember we had that one big snowstorm 2 years ago. That was crazy. I saw like the way they plowed the snow. They plowed right up against the bus stops. So people with wheelchairs actually on the streets waiting for the bus because they couldn't get their chair up on the because they weren't. I mean, they plow. It's like any driveway. You plow. You're supposed to make a space there, but if you ignore it, you should be fined for that. You know, they can do that. So it's amazing. Yeah. Anything else you want to add for your interview? Yourself?
No.
So now the election's coming up again. We talk about next year's 2026 mayor and candidate election. Look, if you're going to vote for somebody, who will you vote for? What kind of person you want to vote for? We've had enough of these status quo candidates, right? And that's going to happen again.
I'm hoping to vote for somebody that actually has lived experience and has actually been on the ground, as they say. So, yeah, just people with lived experience that can actually say, okay, well, I'm not here to talk. I need somebody that's walked in my shoes and can really support me by showing me that they've at least walked in my shoes.
That's amazing, yeah. So I would ask, for a person with your wheelchair, which place is hanging out besides McDonald's?
You'll often find me at Scarborough Town Center.
Oh yeah.
Or going to the movies. So yeah.
How the movies? Yeah, I remember back then they made it more accessible for the movie. Most movie theaters should be accessible, right?
Movie theaters are great because if I'm talking to the representative, they'll often volunteer to support me and carry my popcorn to the seat. So that's quite wonderful. And I actually wish more people were willing to do that.
That's good. Well, just in this interview, you're actually helping people out by doing the voice, and maybe people be inspired. Like you said, you want to get more packages involved. What kind of volunteering do you like doing if you've been before?
The last job I had me doing customer service. So I would greet people, they'd come into the store, and I would...
Where's this at?
Sorry?
Which store?
That was Real Canadian.
Oh, wow. And how long were you there for?
I was there for anywhere from 3 to 5 years.
Okay, and you just left? Or did they let you go, or did you leave on your own?
I left on my own.
Okay, yeah. And just for other reasons, for personal reasons?
Yeah, personal reasons.
Okay, but you enjoyed it, right?
Yeah, I did.
You know? Yeah, I can see you're a people person.
Definitely.
Like every time we met, you're in McDonald's talking about our situations.
Definitely.
You know, we're talking about our different things off camera, you know, and then you're making jokes about things. I said, that's why I asked if I can interview, just hear your side of the story, because we don't see enough of that. You know, I like to see like this interview when coming election next year, put this interview on the internet, see on the internet, see how people live.
Yeah.
Not just hearing the status quo, overall answers, and like you watch City Pulse 24, they have these candidates on, like I was telling you, they're asking they're all prepared questions, like they're all controlled. Nobody gets mad, nobody gets upset, nobody swears like I do, or nobody makes a stance, nobody fights for people. We gotta fight for everybody. It's called City Hall, meant City Hall, City for all, right? Take the H, it's called City All, not just for people. Open the doors. Like I said, you'd be a volunteer on a committee for disabilities and for special needs. And that's when you need the voice, Even though we talked earlier about the libraries, when they installed those electric bars, remember?
Yeah.
And they were so narrow. And then we had a lady at Maryville, and she had a bed wheelchair, and she couldn't get in it. So I phoned head office and I said, "Did you not consult people with special needs?" No. I said, "Well, not every scooter is the same. There's different types, right?
Right.
Like my friend Isabella Gank, who's passed away. She had a heavy wheelchair. We went to these meetings down on Adelaide Street. This is the funny thing, Dan. It was a 1 inch gap of elevation. We couldn't get the wheelchair. It took 6 of us to lift it up just to get on that one platform. And now it's also, like I said, privately owned. And the owner would not cater to people with special needs. Even though we had 2 employees who were special needs with wheelchairs.
Yeah.
He wouldn't cater. Anyways, nice talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. It's an honor talking to you. And you can see your interview on the Cruising with Thrill on the channel there.
Absolutely.
And I get a lot of people watching. I get a lot of followers, and also internationally. And they'll hear your story. And I'd like telling you, I'm glad you told me the story. This is what you need. People like real people that tell real stories. Not the ones you handpick on TV. You know? Thank you so much. Nice talking to you.
Take care. Bye-bye.